My name is Margaret Blakers. Hello everyone and welcome to Global Greens 2001.
Good morning, my name is Wangari Maathai, I am from Kenya.
Rafael Tiran from the Green Party of Canada.
Soy Carlos Fonseca del Partido Verde de Colombia.
20 years ago, we just had a handful of parliamentarians. 10 years ago, we had absolutely no ministers. Well, today, we can boast of thousands of local Green parliamentarians, hundreds of national parliamentarians all over the world, not to speak of the ever more influential Green ministers in 6 European countries and 2 African nations.
I'm Svet Zabelin from Russia Social Ecological Union.
My name is Giuseppe De Marzo, representing Italia Green Party.
I'm Minati V from the Norwegian Green Party.
Trees and forests are being killed without shouts. The coral reef is dying silently. There are so many silent messages in the world. Voices of trees, voices of coral reef, voices of war victims, voices of future generation. The present politics in many countries fail to listen to these messages. We have to give a voice to these silent messages, and I think that's what Greens are for.
I am Fatima Alaoui from Green Party of Morocco.
Bonjour, Francine Bavet, porte-parole des Verts français.
Sakat Velos Mitswanebi Patia, the Green Party of Georgia.
We have to be very united. The society is waiting for an example of a human organized, in cooperation, no protagonism, loving the earth and doing the work the way it should be.
Vera Lúcia da Mota, do Partido Verde do Brasil.
I represent the Rainbow and Greens from Japan.
Jordan Green Party.
The Maltese Green Party.
Balochistan from Pakistan.
Finnish Greens.
From Oaxaca, where we met last year, we said this third millennium will be green, and we are going to work. We work and made it green.
I believe quite optimistically that we can make a difference if we don't give up and if we keep challenging.
The Green Party of New Zealand.
I am the president of the Green Nepal Party.
Mongolian Green Party.
De la Tierra Paraguay.
De la Tierra Nicaragua.
Green Party Taiwan.
Sweden.
The Netherlands. Switzerland.
Thailand. De Uruguay, Sudamérica.
Sri Lanka. From a new country, East Timor.
We were strangers in a strange place. Nothing going for us, just another rat in the race. Brought together by some cosmic force, 3 souls together with one voice, one Lord.
What a pleasure to see so many people from all parts of the world to be here today in Ngunnawal country. We are proud as the traditional owners to have you here. I'd like to say to you, welcome to my grandfather's country, my great-grandfather's country.
Well, welcome everybody. I take this as our tribute to the future, to all of you, from right round this beautiful, wonderful little planet of ours, which so far as we know is the one speck that harbours life, that gives us sustenance, and upon whom we depend, for it is us and we are it.
My name is Nimo Basi from Nigeria. In my language, to say thank you, we say Esosongo.
I'm from Papua New Guinea. Even though I am one, but I bring the hearts of Papua New Guinea too.
There are 2 of us from the little island of American Samoa. In our islands, we don't say greetings like you do here, like good mornings. We do say, where are you going? Ayaru Ifea. So I say to the Green Party, where are you going? This is how it all began, the way it began. Oh, yeah.
We realised that a Global Greens Charter would be indeed an essential element of this conference, as an expression of the identity and the political principles of the global green movement. The inspiration for the Charter was drawn initially from the charters and constitutions of green parties around the globe, ranging from the world's first Green Party, the United Tasmania Group, to the charters and constitutions of green parties from as many places as Brazil, Mexico, Taiwan, Africa, New Zealand, Canada, US, Europe, as many as we could actually find when we started this process 2 years ago. We also incorporate some material from the Earth Charter, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, and also from the declaration of the Global Gathering of the Greens at Rio in 1992. So I hope you can appreciate that this charter is based on a long and honourable green tradition. And I would further invite you all to participate in creating the final draft of the Charter in that same spirit.
Like the Tasmanian transformed their indignation and their protest into party political action 30 years ago, we now propose the Global Green Charter and a Global Green Coordination to carry on our dreams. But like all dreams, that's not a closed product. That's not a closed document. We have to keep the Global Green Charter permanently up to date. I want to say that Canberra must continue it. A network, a coordination, or other name of the Greens must be built. We haven't got any change in our feet. We can go away, we can fly, and we can transform our dreams into reality. It's the beginning of our great global adventure. Thanks.
This document is supposed to place the green groups or the green parties in the whole world in power so that they can effect their changes. A lot of things here, when I was reading, I found that they will not make us get votes in Kenya. They will not make us get votes because they conflict with our culture. Some of the things which are advantageous to Europe probably will be put for Europe. And some things that will conflict the African beliefs will be removed from the African Charter. Maybe we have to have different charters for different continents or different countries so that we can effectively manage to sell it to our people.
Apparently, Greens from other continents don't think that it is that fundamental, that it is that global, that it really should be. And then I say that, well, then we really like to have your amendments. Sure. Okay, so give in the concrete amendments really that we make sure that this charter becomes a global and fundamental green charter and nothing that's biased towards a European and northern point of view. Thank you.
Can I just speak one point? It's very important for this Global Greens conference, I think. From the Philippines.
One word.
Can I be given permission?
But, there are people who are on the list. One word you can speak, but yes, very.
This is on the issue on the fundamental principle of non-violence in our charter. The Greens are supposed to represent the future, and non-violence is supposed to be our future. But in this charter, it seems that non-violence is seen as an option, not as a way. Shouldn't we focus more on encouraging and strengthening and supporting non-violent democratic mass movements rather than giving an option to use force in resolving military conflicts or violations of human rights in different parts of the world? This is a fundamental weakness in this charter, I see. Thank you very much. There was
someone from New Zealand who asked the floor. Yes.
From a youth perspective, the Charter is lacking. We feel that in some sections specific reference needs to be made to the importance of youth in both constructing and realising our green vision. Youth are not just another group. We are the future generation that us Greens hold so dear. We would also like to encourage people to go to the youth workshop if they want to hear more about that and explore the issues of youth and how to get youth back into green politics.
Great.
This animal called globalization is worse than slavery, is worse than colonialism, is the biggest dinosaur that ever walked on this planet. We must do something about it. Sometimes we speak about globalization in broad terms, but we don't really know sometimes what we are talking about because it probably doesn't impact on us. Many of us are privileged. Many of us are fighting on behalf. We are not the ones who are really victims of globalization. We have a very special responsibility to our future generations because we must save the planet. We must save the planet, but we must also save Africa. Africa is very vulnerable because of the huge Sahara Desert. Africa is very vulnerable because it has been raped, exploited, disempowered for hundreds of years. And her people are now going through another colonization, a colonization that is now coming in the form of globalization. And they are being forced to throw open the doors of their countries, and they are being told, open the doors so that you may be rich. But you and I know that for every door we see open, we see more poor African people. So we open our markets to free trade. But we have no capital, we have no knowledge, we have no skills, we have no technology. How do we now open our doors and compete with Coca-Cola, for example, and all the other companies that are promoting even what we really don't need, leave alone what we need? So our people, if you go to Nairobi, those of you who have been to Nairobi, you will see that our people are given a sense of hopelessness. And they resort to destructive activities such as alcoholism, such as drug abuse. And so we become victims right there in our own doorstep. And I was looking for mechanisms for how we shall deal with such companies at home.
I'm talking about the World Bank that came to Thailand for the first time 40 years ago to help the absolutist dictator regime to plan for development. It was the World Bank that was largely responsible for pushing for the process of rapid development, industrializations, totally neglecting the need for the countries like Thailand to have a kind of democratization process. But it was the absence of democratization process in the development process that contributed mainly to the crisis in 1997. Inequity, natural resource destruction, ecological destruction, human rights violation, pushing Thailand further into the process of getting more addicted to foreign capital. We have no way, our government has no way but to continue exporting. And the more we export, the more natural resources will be destroyed. There's a need for reduction of the power of supranational institutions like the IMF and the World Bank. We need to talk about how we can do this amidst the fact that their power is really very strong. In my experience, and perhaps in the experience of the activists of the movement leader in our countries, there is no hope. I must confess that activists in Thailand see no hopes that these institutions, are going to be reformable. I think we have to bear in mind that the only way, being an activist, to see these institutions to become less powerful is that each of the countries which are contributing money to these institutions must take some drastic action against them.
Bon, voilà, les multinationales chez nous, voilà comment elles se comportent. Elles gagnent de l'argent pour les pays du Nord. Alors, le problème qui se pose est ceci. Nous ne sommes pas venus en tant qu'Africains à ce forum pour faire plaisir vraiment à la création d'un global green. Non, nous sommes venus pour discuter franchement avec vous sur ce que nous pouvons faire. Et nous pouvons beaucoup de choses.
We from Africa have not come here necessarily to talk about forming a global green movement. We have come here to talk with you about what the situation really is, and so that we can discuss frankly what we can do about it, the situation with multinationals. And believe me, there are things we can do.
I think our globalization is also solidarity. We must invent our globalization. What we ask others to do, we must begin by doing it by ourselves.
What we have to do, and that's the lesson that we have to learn, is that we will have to create alternative economic models that resort in what we have built, that resort in what we have, that resort in our human capital. We will have to create alternative international markets through fair trade that make closer the customers and the producers.
Globalization has led to export of corruption to non-industrialized nations. So when you speak of governments in Kenya, in Nigeria being corrupt, they are corrupted by transnational corporations. Because these are the ones who are driving the politics as well as the economics or economies of these nations. One solution we think we found in Nigeria, which we are using to campaign right now, and which I would suggest to communities who own uranium mines in Australia, is that we are saying that where resources are found, these resources must belong to the local people. And then negotiation would have to, you have to go into negotiation with these people because they know the impact of extractions, the impact of exploitations, the impact of the industries on their health, on their environment, on their ways of life. We have to hold globalization to a standstill at the local level. Thank you.
Now, one of the reasons why water is running short in Nairobi is because the government is very busy destroying the catchment areas. It is destroying the catchment areas partly to log, to export timber, to get foreign exchange, to finance our international debt, which at the moment stands at about $8 billion US. So last year, we were part of the campaign, Jubilee 2000 campaign, saying, cancel the debt. And I know that worldwide, we collected 18 million signatures. And when we collected these signatures, we really thought that the rich countries of the world, led by America, Japan, Germany, and all that, that they would really drop the debt. But at the same time, our government was very busy campaigning to say they don't want the debt cancelled, because one of the conditions of cancelling the debt is to be more democratic, to be more transparent, to be more accountable, and to let the people know what you borrow for and how you use that money. So the government said, while we were busy campaigning on this side, our government was very busy saying, we really don't want to see the debts cancelled because we want to continue borrowing and we really don't want the people to know how we use the money. They want to continue putting the Kenyan people under such heavy debt, such that even at the moment we have a debt we will never pay. We can never pay. We will never finish, our children will never finish. So even as we stand here, our people are mortgaged by debts. And some governments are still saying to the Kenya government, you can borrow, you will pay. And if you don't pay, your people will pay. If this generation does not pay, the next generation will pay. So I do want to know how we want to make sure that the people are truly protected. So we have a very big problem in Africa because globalization is not just companies coming. Globalization is a matter of life and death for us and for the future. Thank you very much.
I think launching the Green Shield is a signal not only of solidarity, of encouragement for the Greens in the countries we've just heard of, but it's also a signal of warning, a warning signal to anti-democratic, authoritarian regimes in the world.
In Mexico, for example, we have a municipality where we recycle the garbage. We have a green major in the state of Mexico, and we had someone killed because the community was recycling, and that was not in favor of the people that owned the garbage. It's not easy being a green and underdeveloped country. There's a risk to your life, there's a risk to your family, there's a risk to the people that surround you.
All our big leaders have been killed in Colombia. All of them. They have been assassinated. So the challenge is to be alive till the end of the elections. After a very hard debate against the president of Colombia, which had been financed by the drug dealers, I wrote a book explaining all that had been happening in that judgment, how they had bought the judges, how they have killed witnesses. And because of that book, I received threats. And I had to take my children out of the country, and they came to live real nearby to New Zealand. And I thought that I was going to leave them in New Zealand for 3 months, and it happened to be 4 years.
As Machiavelli said, if you are going to change the world, get ready to be crushed by those who already have the power. Well, we're the crush protection mechanism. This Green Shield is the crush protection mechanism.
Thanks.
Imagine such a political atmosphere with singing and dancing, even in front of the parliament, early morning. So I really enjoyed it.
We have to understand that politics is not something that you want to be in or you do not want to be involved in. We are deeply, extremely involved in politics. If you get in on a bus and you pay $2 or $2.50, it's because someone has discussed it, it's because it's agreed with the government. So I think that we must understand that this is not a question of, oh, I want to be involved in politics, or, oh, I do not be involved. You are involved in politics. The question is that, do you want to participate of the decisions that's going to affect your life, or you don't want?
To be green, for me, it is about to make a change. It is not so much about the participation in such formal institutions and parliament and governments. It is even not so much about the changing of the global thinking of humankind. But it is indeed the proper education and empowerment of young people to provide them with the possibility in the very beginning of their life to prioritize the environmental and social values in the way that no other significant change will be necessary. To establish the relevant dialogue with young people, it is necessary to speak their language, to understand their environment, and to share their culture. We are not only the biggest proportion of people who vote in the favor of Greens. We are, in fact, the very generation that will bear in 20 years the responsibility for our planet, for our environment, for the democracy. Mexico Green Party imposed a 20% quota at all the levels concerning the youth participation in all the decision-making bodies. In fact, and in reality, the party did succeed because of this improvement. We recognize the necessity to address the experience of older generations as a valuable asset, and we'll do our best to be more patient in terms of the time of the political change.
We are now present in 1/3 of governments in Finland, Germany, Belgium, Italy, and France. We Greens so far, we are never alone. And the policy of the government is at the best a political compromise, but at the worst, the policy of the main party of the coalition. So why we take part on government? It's a good question, but why not? Because when you are already in all local, regional government, the natural step seems to the national government. A strong Green Party with a strong structure, independent of the government, who is able to say what the minister cannot say. A Green Party in link with the civil society who is able to take part in demonstration. If it is not the case, people who are close to us, especially the more activists, are disappointed, turn back from the Green, and we lose the next elections.
This is a statement by Ralph Nader, who I had the privilege of managing his campaign last year. We need people who are willing to stand up to those who routinely deny the sovereignty and will of the people. We need civic heroes who will bridge the democracy gap that shuts civil society out of the halls of power. And we need the sustained commitment of those who will move from being merely concerned to being serious about developing green parties and green movements that, with organized communities, will institutionally challenge the forces that perpetuate or remain indifferent to gross injustices.
We have 19 Korean delegation, and most of them has experience in jail. We have war, civil war. Many of 5 million Korean died or killed, and we have 30 years long dictatorship. Democracy need blood. It's our experience, and now we need also new political alternative. It's for us very important because we have very badly political system. I was already increased and also already motivated after this conference go to Korea, and I tried to build with our Korean friends Green Party. Thank you very much.
When our societies have fallen in the abyss of the self-destruction, of the economic apartheid, and of the dictatorship of the profits, the Greens turn out to be the only ones proposing a new social contract and a new economic model. Fortunately, this current of thought achieves its ideological maturity today, in the moment in that humanity's survival is at stake. Let us not think of what we have not achieved, but of what we can make, of what we can do, and in what we have to work. Let us don't make the listing of our weaknesses, but rather claim our strengths, because we are not entitled to be marginal political forces. Neither can we satisfy ourselves with being support forces for the construction of temporary political majorities. We should look for power and obtain it. We cannot undervalue ourselves, because the world looks upon us and it expects from us big actions. That is the reality. We are flying the modern flag of the new humanism. Our fight is for the salvation of the planet. It is for the whole humanity's survival, of its history, of its dignity, of its accumulated cultural richness, and of its diversity. This is our new frontier, an immaterial and universal one, more dramatic frontier than the conquest of the New World, or than man's first step on the moon, because to reach it, we don't depend on our physical or technological efforts, but on our moral resistance. Let us not deceive ourselves. To be green in this new millennium, we have to endorse the uniform of the new samurai, to defend our values, our principles, our ideals, above everything, even above our own life. Because without those values, without those principles, and without those ideals, life becomes a condemnation. We should understand the essence of what we are outlining to the world. The salvation of the planet, the right to live is nothing else than a fight for values. These values are those that all human beings share, regardless of the color of our skin or of the name that we give to our God. And because they are essential values, they are not negotiable. To outline a new economic order, a new social pact, this is not a utopia. It is simply the basic thing, the minimum, to continue working as societies in a globalized world. I say this with force and with anguish, because I feel that we cannot waste any more time. The first thing that we should defeat is our own skepticism. That war that we will win will be won more quickly in the measure that we are able to communicate certainties to the multitudes. This is a modern confrontation where information is strategic, and it will be won first with ideas. The future is green, and it will be. Thank you.
I have here the website of the Global Green Meeting in Canberra with Ralph Nader on the picture here. There's Ralph Nader here. And it was supposed to be, I think, the big event that Ralph Nader would talk here. And now we have just a small message from the United States. I don't know why Ralph Nader is not here. I can suppose why he's not here, because of all the critical questions that will come up. If Ralph Nader had only said he would not be candidate in Florida, we wouldn't have Bush now. I'm sorry to say this, but this has to be said and has to be discussed.
Thank you, Hans.
Ingrid said the right to live is to fight for our values. That's just what I want to emphasize. That. And it means taking risks. That's why I admire the young global Greens. I admire you guys very much. You have to take risks to survive. Amidst all what was happening in the world, or the elections in the United States of America, Ralph Nader took the risk for what he believed in. He took the risk for what he believed in. And if we believe in our principles as Greens, we have to take the risk to let the world know what we believe in, whether we win or we lose. The important thing is to pass the message across.
Because of the military and economic power of the United States, and because of the power of United States-based multinational corporations through the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank and the World Trade Organization, unless there's a strong Green Party in the United States, all of the work that we share everywhere else on the planet will suffer. Because we had a virtual tie for president, now we have a historic opportunity to change our election system. People realize American democracy does not work. That is what we've done. We have improved the chances for democracy in the United States. When we improve the chances for democracy in the United States, we do so for the entire planet. Go Greens.
We have the desert coming down from the north of Nigeria, displacing populations to the middle of the country. Then we have rising sea levels at the coast, displacing populations to the middle. In the next few years, we expect a mighty explosion at the middle of Nigeria, unless we do something about it. Climate change is a matter of justice.
Every human being on Earth has an equal entitlement to the use of the atmosphere. What we have must be shared fairly. If the Kyoto negotiations were to focus just on that point, we could actually make progress. And so Kyoto and The Hague have not been primarily environmental negotiations. They have been primarily economic negotiations. And the driving force behind countries' participation has actually been competitive advantage rather than the question of moral leadership. While Bush's recent stand is, of course, an outrageous thumbing of his nose at the planet, Bush is not the real problem. After all, it's not so long since the US Senate voted 95-0 against ever ratifying the Kyoto Protocol.
Il y a justement quelques semaines, Bush a refusé de ratifier le protocole de Kyoto et c'était quelque chose de tellement mauvais.
Just a few weeks ago, Bush decided not to sign the Convention of Kyoto on reducing greenhouse emissions, and that was a terrible thing.
De nombreuses famines frappent aussi actuellement les pays du Sud à cause des changements climatiques.
Climatic change is at this very moment causing famines in countries in the South.
Et les pays sahéliens, c'est vraiment des exemples types dessus.
A typical example of that is the countries in the area around the Sahara.
La pharmacopée traditionnelle prend aussi un coup avec ces changements climatiques.
Traditional pharmaceuticals are also very hard hit by this climatic change.
Nous avons déjà constaté que les politiques traditionnelles ont échoué.
We have already established that traditional politics has failed.
Nous devons donc coopérer franchement.
So we must cooperate.
Que les écologistes du Nord et du Sud se donnent la main pour avancer.
So the Greens in the North and the South join hands.
Et
is this going to work? This is New Caledonia as the tourist road guide shows it, okay, today. And this is an artist's conception, I won't tell you who, of what New Caledonia is going to look like in a year or two if we don't act now. Does everyone get the gist out?
Il est probable que le dernier massif corallien qui subsistera alors sera celui de Nouvelle-Calédonie.
New Caledonia will probably be the last living coral reef system in the world as things go.
Le Kanak en Nouvelle-Calédonie a donné le droit de gestion de leurs coraux, patrimoine culturel autant qu'économique, à Global Green 2001 pour en assurer la responsabilité de sa sauvegarde.
The Senate Coutumier of New Caledonia, which represent the Kanaks, the indigenous people, have given the authority to the Global Greens to be the stewards of our coral reef system. This is a gift to the Global Greens to be the stewards of New Caledonia's coral reef system.
Global Greens call for a boycott of U.S. oil companies. U.S. President Bush declared that he will do nothing against the interests of the U.S. economy and therefore not ratify the Kyoto Protocol on climate change. In doing this, he is directly working for the interest of the big U.S. oil companies which financed his election campaign. The Global Greens will give him a direct answer if he only understands the language of money. We are calling for a boycott until the U.S. administration will ratify the Kyoto Protocol.
If you have a comment to make, you lift up your hand and please let us see your carbon credits.
I'd like to thank George W. Bush. He has really helped us get climate change in the headlines and on the front page. We wouldn't have managed so easily without him, so thanks to him. We will have to also make a very strong commitment to make a boycott work. There's nothing more dangerous than a boycott that's announced but does not take place. So I think we have to take that work on us when we vote on the amendment.
The transnationals are going global because they think
that they can expand their economical activities without any limits. We Greens are also going global, but totally for another reason, because we know that there are limits to growth and we want to have an economical system that fits to those limits. Those who are for the free investments and free trade already have established a very strong organization, World Trade Organization. We who are looking the limits to growth, we are lacking the organization for global environmental governance. Shall we wait until almost 200 international environmental treaties have been put into pieces by WTO, or shall we do something before that? The way out of this weakness is to strengthen the environmental global governance by creating a new World Environmental Organization. Johannesburg Earth Summit can be the moment where there is a real change in environmental global governance. Let us make it happen.
Well, this is the culmination for me and for many people of a long process of detailed work on the Charter. We received somewhere around 200 amendments. Now, I'm glad you sort of laugh. I didn't laugh. I nearly cried. We have managed to consider around 100 amendments.
Amendment 1, the amendment is replace demand reform of the WTO with the words support abolition of the WTO unless it is reformed.
Yeah, just want to say something because it's very different when we talk about WTO, IMF and World Bank. We have to clarify that the WTO it's in terms of legal very different because the WTO was thought exactly for those purposes. I mean, to reduce the sovereignty of the states. So it's something that we cannot change. It's something that we have to shut down.
Thank you.
The reason we should go with this is if we don't go with it, all we get is reform on number 1. The current text. The current text talks about the things that we want, but we also have to stand in solidarity with all the people, particularly the young people, who want to see it abolished if it doesn't change. This gives us the best of both worlds.
We do not say how they will reform, when they will reform. We believe that what the World Bank and IMF are doing is not by coincidence, it's by design, and perhaps just giving them a condition to abolish themselves may not work, so we need another alternative.
Red cards now, please, opposing Amendment 1. It's quite clear that Amendment 1 is carried.
The current text is demand decriminalisation of homosexuality and support the right of gay and lesbian people to their chosen lifestyle. The amendment proposed is to delete the entire clause.
So the whole issue of sexuality should be blended in culture. Different countries can expound culture in their different ways.
Thank you. Mike Feinstein, USA?
Yeah, we support the current text because we believe this is not a cultural issue, but a human rights issue.
An issue like homosexuality can be a very divisive issue at the national level.
Also in our countries, the question of the rights of homosexuals have been divisive and it needed a struggle. The Greens were one of those parties that were courageous enough to start the discussion in their own society.
Il me revient de penser que je vais vous poser la question si vous n'allez pas accepter l'anthropophagie pour qu'on mange l'homme. Alors je vais poser la question, vous allez l'inclure. C'est pourquoi nous demandons purement et simplement que ça ne nous concerne pas. Et l'amendement de la Fédération veut dire de l'annuler purement et simplement. Je vous remercie.
We decide what works well for us at home, but it's important
that as Greens we state, it does not belong in the criminal arena.
Thank you. Those in favour of deleting the clause, please raise your green cards now. 15. Those opposed? I don't think it matters. Those opposed to deleting the clause? There's clearly a majority against it, so the original text will stand.
Do we have consensus that the motion be agreed? For the adoption of a Global Greens Charter to make us a global political movement to move forward in this century of environment. Okay, by acclamation, please. I put to you the Charter. I would ask the whole of the reference group to come
Congratulations! These are our workers.
I would like to present Louise with this book, The Living Wild.
As you can see, I'm somewhat overwhelmed. But I just want to say that there is no way that this could have happened without all of you, and it is your charter. It's not mine, it's not ours, it is yours. And I'm so proud to have been able to help with the creation of a charter for all of us, to take forward into the future and to define what it means to be green in the new millennium. Thank you.
I'll ask that we show how we began with the first press conference. If our audiovisual people could press the button, we'll look at the press conference that none of you saw on Australian national TV the night we began 2 days ago.
International Green delegates are meeting in Canberra, and they've decided to campaign against Washington's decision to ignore an international treaty on greenhouse gas emissions.
The Greens slogan used to be Think Global, Act Local, but not anymore. Greens from across the planet are borrowing from the corporate world and embracing globalisation. It's the birth of an international network of green parties and movements. And in Canberra, 800 delegates from 70 countries are debating a global Greens charter.
And today, Greens are the David and Goliaths are the people who have power because of the money.
The Charter will create a globalised green movement with a new emphasis to think global and act global.
Things would be led not by the WTO, not by the World Bank, but by a democratic structure, by parliaments elected by the people. As European Greens, we are calling for a boycott of the American oil companies.
The Global Green strategy is to pressure the oil companies rather than negotiate direct with the US administration over its decision. John Shovlin, ABC News, Canberra.
In Britain,
today, I'm happy today we have made some arrangements between Mongolian and Taiwanese Green Party and cooperating in Northeast Asian region. And we also made arrangement Northeast Asian Green Movement Network, Korea, Japan, Mongolia.
Je vous remercie aussi d'avoir pensé déjà à une rencontre prochaine en Afrique. Nous en sommes fiers, puisque qui dit Afrique parle de sagesse, d'hospitalité, de cordialité, de pauvreté aussi, mais d'une pauvreté dans l'honneur, la dignité et la confiance en l'autre. Je prends cela, je comptabilise les minutes perdues.
Pardon, je fais vite. I would also like to thank those who thought of where we are holding the next meeting in Africa. And we are very proud to have you all come to Africa. Africa, which is a place of so much wisdom, so much hospitality. Yes, unfortunately, so much poverty, but poverty with honour and with dignity and having confidence in other people.
Je souhaite de tout cœur qu'une rencontre mondiale un jour puisse se faire dans la ville des 333 saints. J'ai nommé Tombouctou la mystérieuse. Et ce jour-là, vous aurez du sable comme moquette. Depuis que je suis dans cette salle, je n'ai pas vu un seul grain de sable. Et ce jour-là, vous aurez le sable. Eric est en train de rire, il sait ce dont je parle. Et c'est du beau sable.
I'm saying this with all my heart. I would love for there to be a meeting one day in Timbuktu where we will have sand under our feet, as here we have carpet. I saw one little grain of sand here, but in Timbuktu we have a lot more, and they are beautiful.
Je vous remercie.
Thank you.
Thursday night, in the middle of City Mall, I cried. Lots. The enormity of the issues we were discussing at the Global Young Greens. The enormity of the crucial efforts needed. The enormity of our future hit home. For the truth of the matter is that we are dealing with emotional stuff. We must trust and involve our young members. So many youth see the Greens as an opportunity to make a difference and to be taken seriously. Remember, they are taking a courageous step. We all joined the Green Party to change the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I admire you, I respect you, and I look up to all of you.
What more can I say, but what a wonderful group of speakers, ideas, emotions, exemplifying everything about the way forward for the Greens. I'm now going to ask the volunteers who have helped get this great conference together to come up to the front so we can see who you are. Would you all come forward, please? And can I ask Christine Milne to come forward too, please? Thank you all. And a special hand also for Christine, who took us through to the Charter resolution this afternoon. These 3 days will help shape Green politics and so world politics for the whole of this century. We are caring, but we are not weak. We are here to change the world radically. Let the world take notice. We Greens will not allow 1 billion people to remain shackled in abject poverty. Nor will we allow for their forests, their fisheries, their water, land and air to continue to be lost and stolen while only the rich profit. We are from many cultures and we speak many different languages, but in politics we speak with one voice. And now, united with our Charter and policy document, we are ushering in a new era of hope for the world's peoples. travel home safely and enjoy the memory of these 3 wonderful days forever. Thank you, everybody.